I think this is going to be my last video on feminism, unless I find something like extremely funny. The reason is that I firmly believe the movement is pretty much gone now. Like, when's the last time you heard about patriarchy or manspreading or any other things? It did have an impact. Like, people got arrested for manspreading, believe it or not. It was all over the internet. I think the purpose of the movement was to get people okay with internet censorship and getting people fired for opinions they had on Twitter. Because that's how it all started. Like, believe it or not, 4chan right now, which is like the most edgy website on the internet, is just like Reddit used to be in 2016. The biggest moral panic that we have on the internet right now is Parler, which has the exact same terms of service that the Twitter used to have in 2018. Like, the internet used to be a free place where people could actually have a conversation without a chaperone looming over them, without Cortana, the Google AI, wanting to see if they're going to say anything offensive in that video. But, you know, it was through feminism. It's like, oh, well, women cannot be safe on the internet. We must take action. We must make sure that men do not say edgy jokes, because jokes are normalizing gang rape. I'm not even kidding. Like, that was the argument. Like, someone makes it funny, someone says something humorous, and the next day other people think it's okay to break the law and rape women. I don't understand how this ideology even managed to gain ground the way it did. Well, actually, I do know. It's because everyone that was talking something about it, no matter how ridiculous it was, like air conditioning are sexist, would get a platform on mainstream news. Like, the whole world would get exposed to that. Meanwhile, if you were to say anything against it, then you'd be like suppressed or banned or censored, or, you know, so it was artificially made that the most popular voices are in favor of this just ridiculous ideology. This is like the patriarchy, this conspiracy theory, which strongly believes that all of the men are working in unison, they're working together in this shadowy cabal called the patriarchy, which has its firm purpose in subjugating their wives, their daughters, their sisters, their mothers. It's like, you know, like, you go to a man and you insult him about his mother, you're going to have hands flying. Like, but apparently, when he is in the patriarchy, that's different. All right, it's just more like he's outside of the patriarchy. He behaves. I never understood. Like, seriously, Romanians can't even compute this ideology. It's so bizarre. Like, you need a long period of time where you slow boil the frog in order to get adepts of this type of rhetoric. But one of the things that they constantly talk about is how to fight toxic masculinity. Now, if you don't know what toxic masculinity is, then look at The Last of Us 2. Pretty much any woman in that video game suffers from toxic masculinity. Captain Marvel suffers from toxic masculinity. It's kind of weird. Like, in a way, it's supposed to be like something bad, but then they also attribute to good things that men have. Like, for example, being courageous is a noble virtue. We're going to watch about that in a bit. But no, that's apparently also toxic masculinity. It's really weird. You know, it's so weird that they overarched what they considered to be toxic masculinity to the point where they had to create a new word for attractive men, and they created big dick energy. Like, The Guardian wrote articles about it. And it's interesting because literally what they would describe by big dick energy was toxic masculinity. I guess it's like now the yin and yang of toxic masculinity, the good type and the bad type. Very bizarre. Right. It's kind of sad though, because there are a lot of men out there, especially teenagers, which do need advice. Like, they do need to know how to behave in life, and they look to the media, they look to schools, they look through social media, and they find this type of advice, which really isn't helpful. Like, in fact, I bet they're going to depress them more. The only good advice, if you're a guy, in my opinion, like from what I've seen, there aren't even a lot of role models. I mean, who do you look at television and you go like, I want to become like this guy, huh? I know, Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci is my role model. But other than that, like, we only have Dr. Fauci. Like, what else do you have besides that for men? In Japan, there's a lot of idols for men, but like in the West, very few, right? I think, Jordan Peterson, he made that book, right? Like the Rules for Life. And because a lot of people are freaking out about it, that's good, but you need to read it. You know, like that's the only good advice that I can think of, you know, something that basically says you need to first grow your self-esteem, make sure that you can support yourself so that you can support others, and then worry about, changing the world. Literally all the advice that you get from everyone else is like, no, first you need to change the world. Like, join some activist group, join some Antifa, and go on the streets during a pandemic and become a nuisance because you hate capitalism. Sponsored by Sony. So yeah, like I genuinely think like Jordan Peterson is one of the best people that can give advice for men that need advice. Because most people don't need advice in life. Most people manage to sink or swim. But there are a couple that are genuinely in need of some encouragement or getting set on the right path. And honestly, like I genuinely would be scared if I was a kid right now, and because I wouldn't know who would guide me besides my father. So yeah, anyway, let's look at a couple of things which are toxic masculinity. And apparently it happens everywhere where you look at it, right? So if it happens everywhere, that is normal. Like, when something literally happens everywhere. Like, everywhere I look, people buy bread. So it's not a problem if people buy bread, right? Secondly, the problem that you're having is that these people that are making these hashtags and that are making this activism, they're not your parents. They're not your folks. You don't know these people. Why do you think they want what's best for you if these people wouldn't give you a single dollar if you were stuck in a ditch and you needed help, right? This is like, here's my life advice, okay? If a person wouldn't give you money if you are in desperate need, do not take advice from that person. Because they're not interested in helping you out. Just, like, seriously, think about this. What type of person definitely cares about you? If you are starving, they wouldn't give you money for food, but they always tell you how to live your life. So we got this, men don't wear pink. So this is like the most dumb thing that I have seen, because there's a lot of men that wear pink. Like, every time I go on the street, I look around myself and there's a lot of men that wear pink shirts or some articles of clothing that are pink. I mean, the only thing is that it needs to look fashionable, right? Like, it needs to suit the occasion. Here's the thing about clothes. When you dress up, you project to the people around you a message. Okay, it's a non-verbal message, but it's a message nonetheless. If you don't believe me, try this experiment. Go out shopping dressed in a suit. But like, I'm talking an impeccable suit, like something that actually looks good on you. And go out shopping. Not only will it raise your confidence, but you will notice that the people around you start acting differently. Just because you're dressed in a suit, you're still the same person. And then go in the same place a week later and dress in some raggedy clothes. Some, like clothes that you would normally not wear outside, but you keep them for indoors use. And you'll see that the same people are going to behave differently to you. Because, like, this is what clothes are. They symbolize something. And you have no control over what the other people from around you are going to internalize from how you dress. But it's very important. So when you show me a guy that's dressed like this, like having a cigarette in his mouth, and he's got like the glass in his hand, and he's got like the tattoos all over his body, and he's dressed in a tutu and whatnot. Like, this is a person that just wants to offend for the sake of it. Like, he is literally going out of his way in order to push boundaries. The question is, what do you accomplish by pushing boundaries? Do you gain anything? No, it's like that mentality of changing the world. You're not going to change the world. You're going to get people just rolling their eyes off you. So, in other words, imagine if Donald Trump, the US president, would come up at the press conference dressed like this. Do you think, like, literally the same progressive people that were like, come on, there's nothing wrong with dressing like this, it's very progressive, very progressive. Do you think the same people would look at Donald Trump dressed like this and go like, I'm so glad that the president finally have the... They would laugh their ass off. They would laugh their ass off. There would be like the articles on CNN mocking and ridiculing and all of that. From the same people that say, no, you should dress like this because it's progressive and it's very good. This is why you shouldn't listen to these people. And I have another example that comes up. Men don't cry, and that's okay. Do you know who cried? Jordan Peterson. He actually cried. He cried at, I believe, an interview. And he cried because he pointed out how people keep harassing and attacking him on Twitter. The number of harassment that he got after crying intensified tenfold. And some of the same people that are encouraging this type of message, they attacked Jordan Peterson. Why did they do that? Because I firmly believe that this is why they want men to cry. Basically, it's like, show me weakness. Show me weakness so I can know where to attack you. Again, imagine if Donald Trump would go out on television crying because he lost the election. Do you think that the people who made this meme would be like, you know what? At least he has, he's not a person that's suffering from toxic masculinity. At least he's a decent human being. No, they would mock, they would ridicule, they would laugh at him. Like, this is why men are told not to cry. It's because the world is a harsh place, filled with assholes and communists who will take advantage the moment they see any weakness. There is no compassion on the internet or on the mainstream media. There is no understanding. There is no, like, they will attack you viciously because for them it's entertainment. And there is a person in the comment section here which says, I cry all the time, but no one listens. And here's the thing, like babies cry. Adults need to show composure. Like, if you are the CEO of a company and let's say because of you, a lot of people manage to have jobs and put food on the table. If things go rough and your employees see you crying because like, oh my God, the company is going to go bankrupt. Is that going to raise or lower the morale in the company? Like, you don't want leaders, you don't want people in charge to start crying because then you don't feel safe. Then you don't feel secure. Then you're starting to worry. Your morale drops. And morale is going to just spread through the company, through the ranks. And by the way, I noticed that even women are being told not to cry now. It's not just men. Like, I witnessed a mother, and it was yesterday, it was at shopping. I think like the girl was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, and the mother was telling her to stop crying because she's grown up now. And I was like, no, like even women should not cry. Now, there are acceptable moments to cry. You're supposed to, it's acceptable to cry at a funeral. It's acceptable to cry during Titanic and Lion King or The Walking Dead. Like the first season, The Game from Telltale. There are acceptable places. I've yet to see a single person saying you shouldn't cry at a funeral, and if that person would say something like that, they would be the asshole, right? But generally, there are things where it's acceptable. However, like just crying because things aren't going your way, or like just showing vulnerability to people that you don't know and they don't care about you, that's such a good idea because, again, why are you crying? Because you're sad, right? So if you show people that you're vulnerable and then they attack you, aren't you hurting yourself? Like, aren't you doing more harm to yourself? Because you can't control the people. Like, Jordan Peterson cannot control the trolls that were mocking and attacking him because he had the audacity to cry. And then you have boys will be boys. And this is like something that really bothers me, right? Because apparently like Gillette wants to be Boomy and Daddy, like a corporation wants to educate people. Like, boys will be boys, taught to be respectful and responsible for their actions. Right? So here's my question. On one hand, it's very popular to say that in defense of looting is a good thing. Like literal books that encourage people to criminal activity are being published. But like the saying boys will be boys, no, that's horrible. Look, when Billy comes home and he is covered in mud and you find out that he had a stick fight, he was dueling with sticks with the neighbor, even though you told him he shouldn't, and the wife starts crying and she's panicking and she's like, oh my God, he doesn't listen to us anymore. What are we going to do, V? What are we going to do, V? He's going to join a gang. He's going to sell drugs and he's going to end up in prison. Oh, poor Billy. Then is when you tell the woman, it's like, look, calm down. Boys will be boys. We all been through that period. Rebellious teenage years in our life. That doesn't mean anything. It's like, just going to have a talk with him again. And it's like, calm down, right? It's not the end of the world. I've yet to hear like boys will be boys when you find out that your son has raped the neighbor's daughter. Okay? Like I have not heard this expression being used in such a situation, nor will I think I will ever have it heard. I don't even know like the type of parent, or even like show me the movie or the video game or the teacher that is going to say, yeah, you know what, like if you do criminal activity, that's fine. Perfectly fine. You know, boys will be boys. Boys are allowed to do it. Ah, you're a girl, Susan? You're not allowed to do it. No, it's just like an expression to explain the fact that, yeah, like, boys are going to tumble in the mud once in a while, and their clothes are going to be dirtier. At least that's what I got when I was a kid. Like, that's what I understood. You know, boys like contact sports, like dodgeball. Most girls didn't want to play dodgeball. I don't know why. Maybe they needed feminism to teach them to play dodgeball. I don't have a clue. It's not because we wouldn't play with them. We definitely wanted to play with them, but they preferred to play with their dolls. It's like, okay, I don't like dolls. Maybe I needed feminism to teach me to like dolls more. But like that's what boys will be boys is. But for some reason, I don't know how it denaturated, or maybe like in America things are different. Like maybe in America, you know, like after dad reads the newspaper and it's like, oh look, this serial killer was finally apprehended today. Oh well, you know, boys will be boys. Like, is this happening? Is this for real? Like, is this genjutsu? And then you have like, men should never ask for help. Again, like I don't know like where exactly are they going to get help from? You know, you get it from this YouTube channel every once in a while, every once in a blue moon. And I'm always worried. It's like, oh my god, I might say something that is offensive and it might get me deplatformed because most people don't agree with me. And boys can never be scared. Like, again, like, now they're just making stuff up. It's like, boys, it's human to be scared. However, courage means that you are acting despite the fact that you are scared, which is a good lesson. You know, it's like, if I'm out with my fiance and a dog jumps from behind the bushes and is charging, I'm going to be terrified. But you know what? I'm going to be positioning myself between myself and the fiance. Why? Because I suffer from benevolent sexism. I don't want my fiance to get harmed. You know, like, I hope she runs away while I try to tackle the dog. Hopefully I'll make it. But you know what? Like, this is like my instinct. This is how I feel that I should behave. Apparently it's not okay, huh? But like, no, like, the idea isn't that I've never ever heard anyone giving me the advice of don't be scared. Like, the advice is on the contrary. It's like, no, I understand you're scared. It's normal to be scared, but you need to do the thing that needs to be done. You know, like, the firefighter is probably scared when he goes into the burning building. The doctors that were fighting COVID are scared, but they do it anyway. So I don't know where they picked up, like, these last two things. Because I've never heard them being said. You know, like, men should never ask for help, or men shouldn't be scared. Like, this is just, I guess, like, them running out of witty quotes. So they're now having to make stuff up that has no connection to genjutsu. Anyway, right, so yeah, this is probably the last video that I make on this subject. I don't think I'm going to be talking about it again. But let me know what you think, and I'll read from you guys in the comment section. Take care.